What's going on, and welcome to the MLB DFS Q&A show. My name is Tom Vecchio. I'm here to answer your questions about tonight's 11-game MLB slate. It locks at 7:05. As a reminder, I am filling in for Jim Sanas not only on this Q&A show, but the Solo Shot every day live at 9 a.m. on our YouTube page. The Q&A can be found here on the YouTube page, the Twitch page, the Facebook, you name it. It can be found there. Make sure to give it a like, follow, subscribe, wherever you might be. That is greatly appreciated. So we have 11 games tonight. We are, I want to say, in a very good spot. Just to recap weather quickly, just some quick updates from, of course, Kevin Roth, the best meteorologist for DFS. We are in a very good spot. Just some very, very minor stuff for the Yankees potentially tonight, and the Detroit Tigers hosting the Red Sox. But outside of that, we are free and clear of weather. Great pitching slate. We have a number of options over $10,000. We have Coors Field on this slate, so we should be seeing plenty of runs as we did last night. We have a few confirmed starting lineups, so we'll get to those. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We'll get to those. Starting off, we already have one waiting from Brad on YouTube. He says he's looking at Willi Castro and Harold Castro for the Tigers, and you can't figure out which one is the better hitter. And he's referencing two stats for the first Castro, Willi Castro with a .212 and Harold Castro with a .292. The question I would have is, what are those stats? What are you referencing for those hitters from the Tigers? Is that batting average? Is that ISO? Is it something? Because I would immediately say that batting average is not something I ever look at remotely. There are significantly better other stats that we can be looking to. I do think that the Tigers are relatively interesting tonight going up against Eduardo Rodriguez, but I would ultimately need more info on that. John Rosenberg on YouTube is asking, are you in on Adell for the Angels today as a one-off or in a stack if you want to get to the high-priced pitchers? That's a great question. I mentioned the Angels briefly on the Solo Shot this morning. Let's just give an update to this to see if we have any more confirmed starting lineups. The White Sox just got confirmed. Diamondbacks, Blue Jays, Indians. We don't have the Angels as of yet. So the Angels, I said, are interesting. I have them pulled up here because they're going up against Kobe Allard. Kind of the same spot that they were in last night, going up against Jordan Lyles. Kind of the same spot for the Braves as well. There are two stacks that I like a bit under the radar tonight. Attacking Kobe Allard, I think, is really solid. 2.37 home runs per nine is allowing this season to lefties, 1.43 home runs per nine to righties, giving up some decent fly balls to both righties. Not a whole lot of hard contact, but certainly the fly balls are an issue for him. So I'm in on Adell. I think if you want to use him as a one-off simply because you need the salary relief and he is minimum salary, should be batting in the middle of the lineup, I think that's fine. Ultimately, if I want Angels exposure, it's either going to be, it's probably just going to be a one-off of Upton or a full stack. There's not many players I'd go to as a one-off outside of Upton and Max Stassi. Stassi, I wrote up today on numberFire's one of my favorite under-the-radar potential home run calls tonight. Really good peripheral stats for him going up against left-handed pitchers, a 186 ISO. Also has where is Stassi? Solid fly ball rate at 40% and a 44% hard contact rate versus lefties. So Stassi and Upton are my favorite one-offs from the Angels. If you are in love with the lineup that you have and you need Joe Adell as that minimum salary player, then roll with it, right? If you have a high price pitcher, you have another stack in there, you're going with the 4-3-1 and you need Adell as that one-off, then just roll with it, right? Don't blow up the rest of your lineup. And ultimately the Angels are in a good spot, so he could get there in terms of value. So kind of like a halfway answer for John. Yes, I'm in Adell or I'm on Adell for the Angels, halfway there, I guess I'll say it. Will on Facebook is saying those are batting averages for Detroit. I don't look at batting averages. It's just not a good indicator for really anything. It's just a yes or no question. Did he get a hit? Yes or no. It doesn't tell you anything about the quality hit, all those sorts of things. Will's also saying, do you like any of the Arizona batters tonight? Not really. I haven't even considered any of the Arizona batters tonight. Gausman is having a very, very solid year. Like, the only reason you'd be going to Arizona is the fact that, like, you are going out of your way to be different in tournaments. You are, like, attempting to say, how can I find a stack that no one else is going to be on, and I'm going to be attacking a pitcher that is probably going to be one of the more popular pitchers on the slate. Potentially, he is $10,000. We know the quality that Kevin Gausman can bring. You look back at some of these recent game logs, okay, he's giving up a few home runs here or there, a couple of runs here or there, but he's a very strong strikeout pitcher, and more often than not, we should see him come out on top over the Diamondbacks. So I'm not targeting the Diamondbacks tonight. If you really want to go out of your way to be different, I guess the Diamondbacks could be that answer tonight. Diffuse on YouTube's asking, how would you rank the Blue Jays studs tonight? That is a great question. We just got their lineup confirmed. Here we go. So we have Springer leading off, Guerrero, Semien, Bichette, Teoscar Hernandez. That's Corey Dickerson, right? The newly acquired Corey Dickerson for the Blue Jays. He's minimum salary, batting in the middle of their lineup. Let's just give this a quick refresh, see if this pops up as with their batting order. It is. Let's go over to the Blue Jays. How would I rank them tonight? Oh, that's a great question. So ultimately, I wrote up Marcus Semien as a potential home run prop tonight that I like. He's $4,100. I think that I might actually rank Marcus Semien first, even ahead of Guerrero, strictly due to the $500 savings. If everything was equal, I would take Vlad Guerrero because Guerrero has, I would say, more potential for the multi-home run upside ahead of Semien. But from a point per dollar standpoint, I will take the $500 of savings on Semien and then go to Vlad and then go to Springer and then Bichette. It might seem a little bit off the board, but on a slate where I really want to pay up for pitching and, some of the lineup builds so far need every dollar of savings I could potentially get, I would put Marcus Semien number one. And it's not like we're taking a random shot here. He has great peripheral stats versus right-handed pitching. Aaron on YouTube's asking, Scherzer get beat up tonight? I'm going to go with probably not. I understand why people will be willing to attack Scherzer. We have seen him allow 1.46 home runs per 9 this season, which is it is the worst of his career. He's actually allowing more fly balls than we've ever seen him allow. He did miss some time on and off the IL, so take that for what it is. And he is going up against the Astros. Ultimately, not a spot that I'm going to be going. As in not going to the Astros, I'm going to be relying on Scherzer tonight. Again, the Astros lineup is just a little bit weaker because they do not have a DH. So does Scherzer get beat up tonight? Probably not. Again, if you are shooting for an Astro stack, hoping that they are severely under the radar, just coming in at super low rostership percentages, then yes, I guess Scherzer has the potential to give up a few home runs as every pitcher does. DJ on Facebook is asking, Jameson Taillon or Jon Gray, who do you think has a better upside as a fantasy start tonight? And stack the Giants, Braves, or Rockies? This is there's a couple questions here, and there's a couple different things going on tonight. So Jon Gray pitching at home for the Rockies, going up against the Cubs. So obviously a pitcher at Coors Field is never a safe thing, no matter what time of year it is, no matter what the matchup is. It's always a potential issue for pitchers. Now, of course, we have seen some of these strong starts from Jon Gray, even at home, even against a dangerous lineup like the Dodgers, where he's going for 7 innings, only 2 earned runs and 7 strikeouts. So we do know that there is some strikeout with Jon Gray. He has shown that over the past few seasons. Let's get rid of that. Now, in terms of upside, what are we expecting now? An upside in terms of not just in terms of his fantasy point upside, but in terms of how valuable Jon Gray is to your lineup, because in reality, Jon Gray should be far, far less popular compared to Jameson Taillon, who we know should make a relatively popular play tonight due to his salary and the fact that he's going up against the Orioles. And because we have so many high-priced stacks that we want to pay for, Taillon makes a lot of sense tonight. Now, Taillon doesn't have a massive strikeout ceiling, neither does Jon Gray, but ultimately Jon Gray should not be as popular in tournaments. So who has more upside? I think, including how popular they're going to be in tournaments from a point per dollar standpoint, it could be Jon Gray. but obviously that is very risky being at home in Colorado. So I would lean Jon Gray simply due to the fact that he's just not going to be as chalky. And then in terms of the stacks tonight, it's kind of the same question. The Giants, the Braves, the Rockies. The Rockies are going to be popular. They're at home. It's a given. If the Rockies put up 8 runs, let's call it, and the Braves also put up 8 runs, if the Braves are going to be under, 5%, 2, 3, 4, 5% for some of their hitters, and the Rockies are going to be up at 15, 16, 20%, wherever their chalky hitters are going to be, the Braves are that much more interesting because they're going to be super low. So I would lean towards the Braves. I like the Braves tonight. I actually have them pulled up. We can get back to them later. Russ is asking, do I like any Yankees tonight? Of course, we got to be liking Yankees tonight at home, going up against Matt Harvey. We saw what the Yankees could do last night, that 13-run outburst from them. As I said earlier this morning on the solo shot, Matt Harvey has been producing very, very well as of late. I don't know how. 6+ innings in 3 straight starts with 0 earned runs in 3 straight starts is not something I'm going to be anticipating from him tonight. This is what we're probably going to be seeing from him, where it's 3, maybe 4 innings with few earned runs, a few walks, not a whole lot of strikeouts. That's what I'm probably going to be seeing from Matt, or what we should be seeing from Matt Harvey. That's what I'm going to be expecting from him tonight. So yes, I like the Yankees. I would say anyone really in the top half of their lineup is probably the best spot to be going. We obviously can be going to lefties and righties for them. Dropping down and taking Gardner or Kyle Higashioka or Odor doesn't bring a whole lot of power, but really 1 through 5 in their lineup is absolutely fantastic, really no matter who you go with. Obviously, Rizzo, Judge, Gallo, and Stanton bring much more power upside compared to DJ LeMahieu. So yes, I am on board with the Yankees tonight. From my experience, Cole Calhoun, if you want to go with that, that's what DJ is saying to Will in terms of Arizona hitters. Derek is asking, who do you think is going to be the lowest for the late slate pitcher? I haven't looked at specifically the late slate. If it's just the 8 o'clock games or if it's just the 9 o'clock games, it would probably end up being Jake Odorizzi just on the road versus the Dodgers, although that's not a spot I'm super comfortable with going. You might want to go to Zach Gallen in that spot and then load up on either one of the offenses from the Houston or LA team. That's playing the smaller slates is generally not something I love to do. Jerry is asking, I think all the big bats hit homers tonight. Rizzo, Vlad, Soto, Springer, Judge. What do you think? That'd be great. I mean, we'd be having a ton of upside. I mentioned the Washington Nationals briefly this morning on the solo shot. I said I like their matchup going up against Chase Anderson, and really not worried about if they don't get it done there. They can get it done against the Phillies bullpen, which we know is so weak, and also the Nationals shouldn't be popular. So I'm on board with that. Vlad is a player that I'm absolutely targeting for his multi-home run upside. I think he's also in a fantastic spot. So it's him and Springer kind of tying them together because we know they're in a great spot. And the power for Toronto, one of those teams, like when they get the home runs going in a specific game, it seems like they're never going to end. It's like them and the Reds and Atlanta. It's like when those 3 teams get going with their home runs, it's like we're seeing 3, 4, 5 home runs in a game for them. Favorite stacks tonight from Savon on YouTube. The chalky ones I think are pretty obvious with the Yankees and the Blue Jays. I think that's very clear. I think that going to Colorado or the Cubs is pretty clear. Didn't really talk about the White Sox at all today, but I do think that they are in a good spot. But really, this is where I want to be going, and it's the Braves going up against Hap and the Angels going up against Kobe Allard. So looking at Hap, as I mentioned this morning, really not giving a lot of home runs to lefties this year. He is a left-handed pitcher, so that's not too much of a surprise. But for righties, 2.22 home runs per 9 allowed to righty hitters this year on a 46% fly ball rate and a 36% hard contact rate. That means we want to be going to plenty of the Braves hitters. Of course, they're without Ronald Acuna, but we can be going to some of their other power hitters. Now, some of these numbers are a bit skewed because we don't have Jorge Soler or Adam Duvall in this split just because they haven't qualified for the number of plate appearances just because they were just traded for at the trade deadline. But Soler going to Austin Riley, going to Duvall, going to Albies is probably the core 4-man stack from the Braves that I like tonight. And then for the Angels, going up against Kobe Allard, also a pitcher allowing too many home runs to both lefties and righties because he has a 40% fly ball rate or higher versus both lefties and righties. So again, going to some of the fly ball hitters and power hitters from the Angels is a spot that I'm certainly going to be looking at going. Upton and Stassi are my two favorite calls from there. Do you think there's any pop for the Mets tonight? Baez and Alonso, maybe. I actually wrote up Zach Thompson as a potential cheaper option at pitching tonight. The Mets have been struggling, especially in the second half of the season. And although Thompson only has a 38.2 inning sample size, he's showing a nice strikeout rate, which he has flashed in the minors both this year and then back in 2019 because he obviously didn't pitch last year. So the Mets are struggling. Of course, any team or any player can hit a couple home runs, but I'm actually leaning more towards rostering Zach Thompson tonight as a potential pitching option because his salary relief is what I want at $7,600 to get some of those expensive hitters into my lineup. Still bullish on the Nats as a stack. Let's just see if their lineup got confirmed. I'm going to say the same thing about the Nats as I did this morning. It would be going to the Nats, but it would probably be going to just a 3-man stack from the Nationals, where it would be Soto, one of Bell or Zimmerman, whoever gets confirmed in their lineup. I think it's going to be Bell. It'd be Soto, Bell, and then like one of their value plays. But I really don't see like a whole 4-man. I don't see myself doing a whole 4-man stack when it comes to allocating those stacks in my my lineup pool. So I am bullish on the Nats. I do not think Chase Anderson is a good pitcher. I do not think that the Phillies have a good bullpen. I think we've seen that enough times this season. Their bullpen get blown up specifically late in games. Alec Mills as a play tonight. Julius Ceasar is asking on Facebook. A pitcher at Coors Field who doesn't have a high strikeout rate is probably not a spot that I'm going. Do you think Carrasco has an innings limit tonight? Dave from Facebook is asking. That's a good question. That's the kind of thing that you'd have to just like double check with like a Mets beat reporter before the game locks. Where is Carrasco? Mets right here. So he went 4.1, 4 innings in his most recent game. I would have to like literally search for a beat reporter, leading up to today or, pregame press conference with the Mets manager to see if they're going to increase his pitch count. I understand why people will be interested in Carrasco just because the matchup is good. He's also not that expensive. We also know the pedigree of pitcher that Carrasco has shown throughout his career, and we know he can go out there and rack up the strikeouts. If he's only going to be going 4 or 5 innings, I'm probably going to be hesitant on him just because he's $8,200. At that point, I wouldn't even have him in my player pool, but that's the kind of thing you just have to do a little bit more research for in terms of finding an actual report from a beat writer from the Mets. John is asking on Facebook, what are your favorite low-price pitchers to get different in tournaments? It would probably be Zach Thompson from the Mets. He's $7,600. As I said, he's flashed this strikeout upside, 25.9, again, only 38.2 inning sample size this season, his first year in the majors, but a higher strikeout rate in some of these years, in the recent years he has in the minors. Of course, take that with a grain of salt just because smaller sample size, it is the minors. But in the majors, he's predominantly a ground ball pitcher and a medium contact pitcher. And if we look to the Mets splits this season versus righties, despite some of the power upside that they do show, they're actually a below average offense versus righties. I know that they're like sitting first in their division or whatever it is, but the Mets have a 93 WRC plus versus righties. That's 17th in the league. They are below average. We look to their ISO versus righties. They have a 148 team ISO versus righties. That's 25th in the league. They are a below average offense. That's just a fact. So I like Zach Thompson as my favorite lower price pitcher for tournaments tonight. Producer Cal, our great producer, is saying I'm not touching Jon Gray and Coors. Also, since I want to stack the Rockies, I don't want to give up the 4th spot in the stack. Giolito work for a pitcher? Absolutely. Giolito is probably, I guess you could say from a point per dollar standpoint, Giolito could be my favorite option on tonight's slate because, he has a strikeout rate at 28% that can compete with Scherzer, right? And ultimately, we're not dealing with a massive salary difference between Scherzer and Giolito, but the matchup for Giolito is better than it is for Scherzer. Of course, I'm going to say Scherzer is the better pitcher. all things considered. But, Giolito, the savings you can take and, drop some of these, Toronto hitters into your lineup, they're obviously very expensive. And you go with a 3-man stack, we're going to need a bit of salary relief in order to get another full stack in there. But it makes things that much easier if going to Giolito instead of Scherzer, because when you drop Scherzer in there, we are scraping the bottom of the barrel for stacks at that point. So sure, Giolito does make a bit more sense. Are you in on Hernandez pitching for Kansas City? Jerry's asking on Facebook. No. It's just a flat no for me. Attacking the White Sox is not something that I'm going to be doing. We see some of these games where he's going out here, especially this most recent game against the White Sox where he went out there for 6 innings, but this is a pitcher that generally doesn't go deep into games because he was a reliever. He probably has a short leash on him overall. The walks are a bit too much from him. $6,100, you aren't expecting a whole lot from him. And if he puts up 20 or 30 points, I get it. It's just not a spot that I'll be really looking to go. It's just a no for me. Like attacking these good offenses with, quote unquote bad pitchers is not a spot. If you want to drop down and take Steven Matz at 7,000, that'd probably be the lowest pitcher I'd be willing to go to on tonight's slate. I really don't find myself going down to this lower tier on this slate or on any slate. We want strikeout upside for most of these pitchers. Thoughts on Carrasco? I'm just looking for a win from him. Nick is asking on Facebook. Similar or the same answer as I just said about Carrasco. Like that's something you'd have to find in terms of a reporter giving us information before first pitch that Carrasco is going to go at least 6 innings tonight because he only went 4 in his first start. We have to know that information beforehand and saying he has an 80 pitch limit tonight. He has a 90 pitch limit, whatever it might be, because if he's only going to be going 5 innings again, or at most 5 innings, that puts you in a really tough spot if you're just hoping from the win because, $8,200 is it's not that cheap, right? $8,200 is not that cheap. You can drop down and take Taillon, who we know probably, has a higher potential pitch limit or innings limit on him just because he's been starting all season. And it's not like his matchup is significantly worse going up against Baltimore. All things considered, Carrasco, if Carrasco could pitch 7 or 8 innings, we'd take Carrasco just because, the park factor in Miami is significantly better than being at Yankee Stadium. But again, that's info we do not have. Tim is asking the best team for the money line today, a betting question. So obviously we're dealing with some heavy favorites in terms of the White Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Blue Jays. Laying 2.5 or almost $3 to 1 for a win from the Yankees is not something or a spot that I would be going. The Braves at -112. I guess I'll just go back to the Braves. I'm on board with them as a stack. I don't think J Happ's a good pitcher. I think he's giving up way too many home runs. I'm expecting more runs from the Braves tonight. So I would go to -112 for the Braves on the money line. It's not a whole lot of juice. Is Ohtani worth it at that price point, or would you recommend someone like Eduardo Rodriguez to save some money? So ultimately, Ohtani is a great option tonight. He has a 30.1% strikeout rate that can compete with Scherzer as the best on the slate. I assume most people will be worried about Ohtani and his potential innings limit, or he could pitch great for 5 innings and then they just pull him and they put him in the outfield, whatever it might be. Do I think Ohtani's actually worth it at his price? Yes, is in a bubble, but in terms of building a roster, we have to consider other things. I can't just say Ohtani is without any faults tonight, because Giolito at $9,200 has shown the ability to push past, 50, 60 fantasy points at times, and he's $1,500 cheaper. So in a bubble, Ohtani, or not in a bubble, in a vacuum, Ohtani is great tonight. It's a great matchup versus Texas. He has a 30% strikeout rate. That strikeout upside is going to be there for him, but we have to account for salary. You have to account for how it fits into your lineup build. DJ is asking, should I stack Andrew Vaughn against KC? He's batting 8th tonight. Let's look at the White Sox lineup. So Andrew Vaughn, of course, bringing that. He had a home run last night for Kansas City, against Kansas City for the White Sox. If you want to go to him tonight, I think that's certainly fine. He brings that upside. Should not be popular since he's batting 8th. We generally see players lower in the order, not as popular as like a 1 through 4 stack. So I'm fine with Andrew Vaughn. He's the top prospects. I think he's still the top rated as the top prospect for the White Sox. Like, he is a very, very powerful hitter. He just needs to get that going on a more consistent basis. But I like him tonight. He's under $3,000. He has home run upside. Or Gavin Sheets. I might lean, like, if we're going head to head between those two, I would take Sheets. He's batting higher in the lineup and he's cheaper. And ultimately, Sheets has a higher expected potential number of at bats, right? That's how you have to look at it, because, if Sheets is going to be batting 5th, if they get to the top of the 9th, like, Sheets will always have one more plate appearance potential compared to Vaughn, who's batting 8th, right? Like, that's just how it works. Like, Vaughn's never going to bat before Gavin Sheets. So I would take Sheets ahead of Vaughn because A, he's cheaper, and B, he's batting higher in the lineup. Sal on YouTube's asking, can you rank the top pitchers? Sure. I think this will go back to a bit of what I said earlier this morning on the podcast, and then what I've touched on tonight. All things considered, if we're ranking the top 3, Ohtani has to be above Scherzer simply due to the matchup, right? And also the fact that, Ohtani, are the Angels confirmed? Like, is he, let me just double check this real quick, because is Ohtani in the lineup tonight? Dane Dunning on the IL. That hurts my season-long team. That's great to see. Lovely. We don't have the Angels confirmed yet. So if Ohtani has an easier matchup against Scherzer. So I'll be taking Ohtani over Scherzer slightly. I'm still going to have plenty of shares of Scherzer. Don't get that confused. I still want plenty of exposure to him. So I would go Ohtani, Scherzer, Giolito, Gausman in that order. I think Giolito, for the savings that he brings and a comparable strikeout rate, 28% compared to Gausman's 30% is obviously a very minor difference, but I will take the savings of $800 to get a few more hitters into my lineup. Other secondary stacks to pair with the Blue Jays. Great question. That would probably come down to Atlanta for me tonight, especially if they're not going to be popular, and some of the salaries on their hitters are relatively affordable. Where in the mid $3,000 range isn't that expensive compared to 2, 3, 4 hitters from Toronto that are all above $4,000. Guerrero, Simeon, Bichette, and Springer are all above $4,000, and that can leave your lineup like desperate for value. So if you are going with a 3-man stack from Toronto, I think you should filter in some of these, mid $3,000 hitters from Atlanta that really aren't overly expensive. Atlanta put up 5 runs in the first inning last night, and then they won the game 5-1 or 6-1 or whatever it was. Like, if those 5 runs turn into 9 or 10, which we know the Atlanta offense can do, like, Atlanta is a slate winning stack at that point, right? All signs were pointing to them having a huge night, and they just didn't get it done, or they just didn't continue. I guess they didn't have to. But I am fully on board with Atlanta, depending on what the Angels come out with their lineup. Someone before mentioned Joe Adell. Like, you could be going to Adell is some really, really serious value tonight. And I am, as I said before, I'm fully on board with stacking the Angels tonight, going up against Kobe Allard, who's allowing a 40% fly ball rate or higher to both lefties and righties, allowing way too many home runs to lefties and righties this season. We could easily see what the Angels did last night do again tonight, 8, 9, 10 runs, whatever it might be. And they're falling in terms of implied run totals. They are in the middle of the slate. I think the Angels are going to be overlooked tonight, and they offer some of that needed value. Getting a hitter at minimum salary is always good. Savon is asking, want to get a lot of value plays for cheap tonight? My goal is from different teams. You want to get a lot of value. So depending on what we get from the Angels in terms of their starting lineup, I would say Joe Adell could be absolutely number 1. So, like, here's the Nationals lineup. I know I spoke about them a little bit before. Victor Robles is leading off for them, which is interesting because he doesn't do a whole lot. He hasn't been doing a whole lot this season. See, this is what I didn't want to see. Like, I want the National stack. Like, obviously, leaving off a leadoff hitter in a potential good spot can always leave you, but I guess Victor Robles is in a good spot. Maybe I'll just be forced to use him because I need that salary relief. That hasn't been updated yet. Where's the rest of your lineup? Robles, Escobar, Soto, Bell, Hernandez. Like this lineup doesn't jump off the page at me. It's probably not jumping off the page at a lot of people, which is part of the reason why I think that they're going to be a bit under the radar. Anyone against the Cubs tonight? Yeah, of course, we're going against the Cubs. John is asking on YouTube, do you like the Philly stack tonight? Segura, Harper, Hoskins? Sure. Paulo Espino is pitching for the Nationals tonight. He's a pitcher that has been in the league for quite a few years. Not a big strikeout pitcher. Really not a pitcher that, I go out of my way to attack, or I have attacked this season. He has a decent sample size in the past, couple months or so that he's been starting. He does allow a decent amount of home runs. He does allow a decent amount of fly balls. So sure, the Phillies are interesting to me tonight in terms of overall, they shouldn't really be too popular. There are a number of teams ahead of them. So that Tim is asking one more money line to pair with the Braves tonight. I mean, the Phillies are only at -102. I think that's not too bad. The Cubs could always, it's Coors Field. The Cubs could always steal a game on the road just because their offense goes crazy. I think that's certainly in play. I would go Braves and Phillies. I don't know your betting tendencies, how much juice you're willing to lay if you're trying to parlay them, but the Sox are in a good spot. They should be able to come away with that win. So I would go Braves, Sox, Phillies, Braves, Phillies, Sox, something like that, depending on what you're trying to parlay. Final question from DJ on Facebook, Boston or Mets stack tonight? I would go Boston, going up against Casey Mize, allowing way too many home runs, specifically to left-handed hitters this year. Is actually pretty good against righties, but 2.16 home runs per 9 to lefties this year, allowing a 34.7% fly ball rate, which actually isn't that high. The home run fly ball ratio is very, very bad, and a 47% hard contact rate is absolutely terrible. So I will certainly be looking to plenty of the Boston hitters tonight. Rafi Devers is one of my top calls for home runs tonight. Obviously, we like to target more lefties from the Red Sox, depending on what their starting lineup looks like. We know that they have, some better righty hitters, but going to Devers, going to Verdugo tonight certainly puts the Boston Red Sox in a good spot. We know that they have plenty of offensive upside. All right, so that does it for today's Q&A. Thank you for being here. I'll be back tomorrow morning for the Solo Shot live at 9 a.m. on the FanDuel YouTube page. Of course, make sure to give that a like, follow, or subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at DFS_Tom. Until next time, good luck in your contests.